The elevator doors slide open on the 28th floor, and the smell of burnt coffee and panic hits Lori Parker in the face. She clutches a stack of printed decks and speed walks through the maze of gray cubicles, stomach twisting as her phone buzzes in her pocket. Mount Sinai Medical Center. Test results ready. She pretends she did not see it. Rent is due, her mom's meds are due, and Barry King will throw a fit if she is late by 30 seconds. His glass-walled office waits at the end of the corridor like a mouth about to swallow her. Before she can knock, the door flies open. Barry fills the doorway, red tie, crooked eyes bulging. "Lori," he barks. "You call this a revision?" The client hates it. "They said it looks like a college project. I stayed until 3 in the morning," she says, voice small. "I changed every slide you marked." He snatches the deck, flips through, then shoves it back so hard the cardboard edges jab her ribs. "Do I pay you to whine, or to deliver? Tonight you stay until it is perfect. And do not even think about overtime. You should be grateful I let you talk to clients at all." Something in her chest cracks. She presses her lips together until she tastes blood. For 3 years she has swallowed this. For 3 years she has told herself it will get better. Her phone buzzes again. She backs away, heart pounding, and ducks into her cubicle. The monitor wakes to a wall of red-flagged emails. She ignores them, pulls out her phone, and taps the notification. The hospital app loads. Her breath stutters. Diagnosis: advanced gastric carcinoma. Estimated remaining survival: 3 months. The words sit on the screen, black and final. 3 months. 90 days. Sound drains out of the room. She is 26, junior copywriter, professional doormat, and apparently dying in an open-plan office that still smells like burnt coffee. A strangled laugh claws its way out of her throat. Mia peeks over the cubicle wall, worried. "Lori, you okay? You look like you saw a ghost." "I saw something worse," Lori says, surprising herself with how calm she sounds. "My future." She stands on shaky legs and walks back to Barry's office. Her hands are cold, but there is a strange lightness under her skin, like a balloon finally slipping free of a fist. Barry is on a call, pacing behind his desk. "I do not care what the focus group said." He snarls into his headset. "We will make them like the slogan." He sees her, snaps his fingers. "Did you fix the headline?" He mouths. "No," she says. He taps his headset to mute, face darkening. "What did you just say?" She sets the stack of decks on his desk. Her smile feels too wide. "I said no," she repeats. "I did not fix the headline. I decided to fix something else instead." "And what would that be?" His laugh is ugly. "Your attitude? You," she says. "You are the problem, Barry. You are a disease in a cheap suit." The whole floor goes quiet. Heads turn toward the glass walls. "You have stolen my weekends, my sleep, my ideas," she says, voice gaining strength. "You scream, you belittle, you cut my pay and call it culture. I am done." He strides around the desk, getting in her face. "You think a tantrum is going to save your job?" "I do not want my job," she says. "I want my life back, however much is left." Her thumb finds the secret folder in her phone. For months she has recorded his worst rants and hidden them under a boring app icon. She taps a file and hits speaker. Barry's own voice fills the office. "If they do not like the hours, they can leave. There are 100 fresh graduates who would sell a kidney to work here. Why would I pay overtime when I can guilt them into it?" A collective gasp ripples through the cubicles. Phones lift, recording. Another clip plays. "You messed up the pitch, not me. If the client walks, I will blame you in writing. Maybe that will teach you to grow a spine." Barry lunges for the phone. Lori steps back. "Careful," she says. "Assaulting employees on camera is not a great look for a visionary leader." "You are fired," he shouts. "Effective immediately. Security will drag you out of here." She rips off her ID badge and slaps it against his chest. "You cannot fire me," she says. "I quit." She drops the badge and grinds it under her heel. The crack of plastic is loud in the stunned silence. Someone starts clapping. Then someone else. The sound swells, filling the open office. Lori turns in a slow circle, taking it in. The gray partitions. The buzzing lights. The man who made her world so small. Her phone, still unlocked, glows with the word carcinoma. 3 months. Enough time to stop shrinking. She looks Barry in the eye one last time. "Good luck with the client," she says. "You are going to need it." Then she picks up her purse, flips her hair over her shoulder, and walks out into blinding Manhattan afternoon sunlight, with a new truth beating in her chest. She is dying. And for the first time in years, she is free. The next morning, Lori wakes up without an alarm. For the first time since college, no meeting waits for her, no deck, no Barry. The hospital app icon still sits on her screen. She pointedly ignores it and opens her notes instead. 3 months. What do you do when the countdown starts? Her gaze drifts to the tiny kitchen in her studio, to the stained recipe binder on top of the fridge. Her grandmother's handwriting peeks from the first page. Make them sweet, and make them happy. Baking has always been the one place she feels in control. Flour, sugar, eggs. Follow the steps and something good happens. Fine. She mutters, dragging the binder down. If life is going to be short, it is at least going to taste like tiramisu. By noon, the apartment is a disaster of bowls and cocoa dust. She layers coffee-soaked ladyfingers and mascarpone cream, tastes with a spoon, and hums in satisfaction. She scribbles a name at the top of the recipe page. Last Dream Tiramisu. The dark humor makes her snort. It also makes something settle in her chest. By late afternoon she has trays of tiramisu, brownies, and cupcakes cooling on every surface. Her savings are pathetic, but enough for a thrift store folding table and a floral tablecloth. 2 blocks from her building, there is an empty slice of sidewalk between a hot dog cart and a guy selling phone cases. Lori sets up her table, arranges the desserts, and pulls out a scrap of cardboard. Last Dream Sweets, she writes. Underneath, in smaller letters, no refunds. Life is short. The first customer is a woman in a navy coat with a latte and tired eyes. What does last dream mean? She asks. Is this some diet gimmick? Lori holds her gaze. It means my doctor told me I have 3 months to live, she says. So I quit my job and started baking instead of crying in a corporate bathroom. You want a slice, or you want to keep walking? The woman's mouth drops open, then curves into a shaky smile. 1 slice of tiramisu, she says. And for what it is worth, good for you. Word moves faster than she expects. Someone posts a photo of her sign with the caption, just bought dessert from a girl who quit her job after a cancer diagnosis and named her stand Last Dream Sweets. The cake slaps. By 4 o'clock, a small line has formed. Office workers in loosened ties, teenagers with phones held high, a dog that looks personally offended he cannot have chocolate. Wow mood, says a guy in a beanie, reading her sign. If my landlord raises the rent again, I am starting a first and last beer stand. Do it, Lori says, handing him a brownie. We can partner. Cross promotion. A shadow falls over the table. I will take whatever your best seller is. A deep voice says. And 1 more of whatever you think I need. She looks up and nearly chokes on air. The man in front of her is tall and unfairly handsome. Dark hair, stormy gray eyes, charcoal coat, loosened tie like he walked out of a boardroom and into a magazine spread. For a second she forgets how words work. Congratulations, she says. You just triggered the cancer girl tax. Hot guys pay emotional surcharge. His mouth twitches. Cancer girl tax. He repeats. That sounds like terrible branding. My brand is honesty, she says. 1 slice of tiramisu, 1 brownie. Doctor recommended. He watches her cut the dessert, eyes flicking to the sign again. Is it true? He asks quietly. 3 months. Allegedly, she says, forcing nonchalance. So I am prioritizing carbs over crying. He studies her for a beat, then nods. Seems rational. Their fingers brush when she hands him the box. His hand is warm, his palm calloused in a way that does not match the expensive coat. Side effects may include temporary happiness and an urge to quit your terrible job, she says. He laughs, low and genuine. I will risk it. Before she can overthink it, a familiar voice screeches across the sidewalk. Lori Parker, you chaotic marshmallow, you actually did it. Zoe barrels through the crowd, phone already recording. Internet, meet my best friend. Zoe tells her followers. She quit her trash job after a cancer diagnosis and opened a dessert stand. Say something inspirational, babe. Lori looks straight into the camera. Her heart is pounding, but something in her refuses to flinch. If life tries to crush you, she says, tell it to get in line, then eat cake first. The line cheers. The hot guy with the gray eyes smiles around a mouthful of tiramisu. That night, Lori lies in bed scrolling. #Last Dream Sweets trends locally. Clips of her roast about life and cake bounce across feeds. Some call her brave. Some call her crazy. A few call her a liar. The diagnosis notification still sits in her app. She does not reopen it. Her stomach still hurts. Her future is still a question mark. But for the first time in a long time, the day felt like it belonged to her. By the end of the week, Lori's feet ache, her wrists ache, and her tiny oven threatens mutiny. She has never felt more alive. Last Dream Sweets becomes a minor urban legend. Zoe posts daily chaos updates. Cancer girl refused to sell cake to a guy who called her sweetheart twice. I have never been prouder. The comments pour in. Some share their own horrible boss stories. Some ask what kind of cancer she has. A few trolls call her a fraud. She screenshots the worst ones and sends them to Zoe with, "Do I at least get free rent in hell for this?" Zoe replies with middle finger emojis and, "Haters are just unpaid engagement interns." Friday afternoon, the now familiar shadow falls over her table. "You are late," Lori says, pouring coffee into paper cups. "Your sugar levels must be dangerously low. I had a board meeting." The deep voice answers. "Everyone survived, unfortunately." She looks up. The gray-eyed man is back, today in a navy suit with his tie already loosened. "2 slices of tiramisu?" She guesses. "3. He says. "I brought emotional support colleagues." She snorts and boxes up the order. When he reaches for his wallet, she waves him off. "On the house," she says. He frowns. "I do not take charity." "Relax, Wall Street," she says. "Consider it a loyalty reward. Buy 6 breakdowns, get your 7th slice free." He huffs a laugh and tucks his card away. As the line moves, he lingers near a lamp post, watching her. Zoe appears at Lori's elbow like she teleported. You realize your annoyingly hot regular is literally staring at you like you are a limited edition pastry. She stage whispers. "He is just a guy who likes sugar." Lori says. "He is a guy who looks like he owns sugar." Zoe counters. "I have seen his face on finance blogs." Lori rolls her eyes and focuses on frosting. The rush finally slows around sunset. The hot dog cart packs up. The phone case guy leaves. Her stand looks picked over and triumphant. "You know," the man says, stepping closer, "this is a terrible business model." She stiffens. "Excuse me. You are already sold out by 4, he says. "You are underpricing. You have no online orders, no pre-orders, no way to scale." She glares. Wow. Nothing like a little capitalism mansplaining to spice up a cancer diagnosis. He smiles, but there is a seriousness under his tone. "I am not saying you have to scale," he says. "I am saying you could, if you wanted to." "Why do you care?" she asks. He hesitates. "Because your cake is good," he says. "And because you turned the worst news a person can get into something people line up for. That seems worth protecting." Her stomach flutters in a way that has nothing to do with ulcers. "You still have not told me your name," she says. "Aiden," he says. "Aiden Gray." It takes a beat to click. Then her jaw drops. "Like Gray capital Aiden Gray?" She splutters. "As in, the guy my ex-coworker Mia sends thirst tweets to during earnings calls." Color rises in his cheeks. "I did not realize earnings calls could be thirst traps. Oh my god." She groans. "I called you Wall Street and refused your tip. Best thing that has happened to me in a while," he says lightly. He pulls a sleek card from his wallet and sets it on her table. "If you ever want an online store, a real kitchen, or legal help murdering your former boss with paperwork," he says, "call that number." She looks down. Gray capital. A single direct line. "You realize I am a girl with an ulcer and a folding table, right?" she says. "Not a startup. You are a story people believe in," he says. "That is more valuable than most pitch decks on my desk." He glances at her sign one more time. "The last dream does not have to end in 3 months," he says softly. Before she can answer, his phone buzzes. His expression shifts back into business mode. "I have to go," he says. "Try not to traumatize any more customers without me." "Rude," she calls after him. Zoe does not even wait until he is out of earshot before losing her mind. "Lori," she hisses. "Do you understand what just happened? Forbes under whatever just handed you his personal number. He also told me my business model sucks." Lori says. "He flirted with you in spreadsheet." Zoe says. "That is love in his language." Lori picks up the card. It feels heavier than it looks. She still has 3 months stamped in her brain. She still feels dizzy every time she remembers the diagnosis. But now there is a new possibility sitting on her table, printed on thick paper. Aiden Gray thinks her story is an investment. She is not sure what to do with that. So she tucks the card into her pocket next to the diagnosis and goes home to preheat the oven. Saturday morning is chaos in the best way. A local blogger posts, I bought cake from a girl who quit capitalism after a cancer diagnosis. And the line at Lori's stand doubles. Zoe bounces around filming everything. Say hi to the internet, she shouts. A group of office workers wave with their pastries like victory flags. Lori is mid-eye roll when a crash snaps her head up. One leg of her folding table jerks sideways. Cakes slide. Boxes topple. Hey, she yells, grabbing for the tiramisu tray. A boot kicks the table again. This time it lurches fully, desserts tumbling, cream smearing across the tablecloth. 3 men in hoodies and caps stand in front of her stand, grins mean. You got a permit for this, sweetheart? One asks. I am pretty sure the city does not send guys in knockoff sneakers to check permits. Zoe snaps, stepping between them and the table. Back off before I introduce my phone to your faces. The one with a brick in his hand laughs. You think a little video is going to scare us? He says, and brings the brick down on a pan of brownies. Chocolate explodes. A child in line starts crying. Lori's chest burns. Those brownies were her rent, her groceries, her 3 a.m. insomnia therapy. You do not get to do this, she says, voice shaking but loud. You cannot just smash my stand because you woke up bored. Barry King says different. The leader says. The name hits like ice water. You work for him, she whispers. Guy pays well. The thug says. Says you stole from his company, made him look bad. Says he wants you gone. Says a girl with cancer should be at home, not on a corner making trouble. It feels like the world shrinks. Her diagnosis is suddenly everywhere, even in this cruel stranger's mouth. Zoe lifts her phone higher. Everyone, say hi to Barry King's hired bullies. She calls loudly. You are live, boys. The leader lunges for her phone. Before his hand can close around it, another hand clamps down on his wrist. That is enough. A cold voice says. Aiden stands there, coat collar up against the wind, expression like stone. Gone is the teasing warmth, in its place is something sharp. You are destroying property, he says evenly. And you just threatened a woman, on camera. Who the hell are you? The thug demands. Someone with better lawyers than you, Aiden says. He pulls out his phone, aiming the camera at the thug's face. Smile, he says. Maybe this goes to my attorney. Maybe it goes to the district attorney. Your choice. Around them, people hold up their own phones. A woman loudly tells anyone who will listen that the men attacked first. The thug hesitates. Not worth it, he mutters, tossing the brick aside. Barry said she was just a scared little mouse. He miscalculated, Aiden says softly. The men slink away, cursing. Lori stares at the wreckage. Smeared frosting, crushed cake, her sign bent at a painful angle. The adrenaline drains out of her all at once. Her legs wobble. Aiden steps closer, voice gentler. Hey, he says. Look at me. Are you hurt? She shakes her head, but tears burn hot. I do not have savings, she blurts. I do not have health. I do not have a plan. I finally find something that makes me want to get out of bed, and he sends goons with a brick. She hates that her voice cracks. Aiden crouches, carefully writing what he can, wiping cream off intact boxes. We can fix a table, he says. We can bake more. What if I cannot? She snaps, all the fear and anger boiling over. What if I spend the next 3 months puking in hospital trash cans because my stomach is trying to kill me? The sidewalk goes quiet. Even Zoe does not crack a joke. Aiden straightens slowly. Who gave you your diagnosis? He asks. Dr. Patel at Mount Sinai. She says defensively. Why? Because Barry just sent paid muscle after you, he says. And when a man like that is this afraid of you, he does not stop at bricks. She frowns. I do not understand. He pulls a plain white card from his wallet. I did some checking, he says. A friend at another hospital owes me favors. They cannot give me your records, but they did tell me something interesting about Dr. Patel. Her pulse spikes. Interesting how? She demands. Interesting as in currently under quiet investigation for taking money from outside parties, he says. Recommending unnecessary procedures. Exaggerating diagnoses. The world tilts. You think Barry paid my doctor? She whispers. You think he bought my cancer? I think Barry is petty, scared, and rich, Aiden says. You have evidence of his tax fraud and workplace abuse. A fake terminal diagnosis would be a very efficient way to get rid of you and your problem files. Zoe swears under her breath. Honestly, it tracks. Lori grabs the edge of the table to steady herself. So I might not be dying, she says weakly. Or I might still be dying, but slower. Great. I am not asking you to hope. Aiden says. I am asking you to be sure. My friend is an oncologist at a different hospital. No connection to Barry. No connection to Patel. Let me get you a second opinion. I will pay. No strings attached. Her pride bristles. She does not want to owe anyone, especially not a billionaire, who just sees the world in investments. Why? She asks. Why do you care this much? You barely know me. He looks genuinely surprised by the question. Because I like you. He says simply. Because the idea of you living the next 3 months under someone else's lie makes me furious. Because the last time someone I cared about got misdiagnosed, I found out too late. The last sentence hangs in the air, heavy. She swallows. Looks at the ruined brownies. The bet sign. The faces of the people still watching. Okay, she says. 1 second opinion. But if this doctor tells me I am actually an alien, I am blaming you. Deal. He says. Zoe wipes her eyes with the back of her wrist. If this turns into a medical soap opera, she mutters. I am getting sponsorship. This is my life, not your content calendar. Lori says, but a laugh still manages to escape. They pack up what is salvageable. Aiden insists on carrying the tubs to her building. On the walk, he says quietly. Whatever that report says, it does not change the fact that Barry tried to use your health as a weapon. That alone is enough to bring him down. For the first time since the diagnosis, Lori allows herself to imagine a future that does not end in 3 months. It looks less like a hospital bed and more like a courtroom. And maybe, just maybe, a kitchen that is not in her apartment. Hospitals smell like bleach and nerves. Lori sits on the exam table in a flimsy gown, paper crackling under her. Aiden waits in the corner, decidedly overdressed for an oncology unit. His presence steadies her more than she wants to admit. Breathing. He reminds her. Try it. Bossy. She mutters, inhaling anyway. Dr. Harris walks in, gray streak in her hair, eyes kind but sharp. Miss Parker. She says. I have your test results. Lori grips the edge of the table until her knuckles whiten. I reviewed the previous report from Dr. Patel. Harris continues. And ordered new imaging and biopsies. I am very glad you came. Just tell me. Lori blurts. Please. The doctor nods. You do not have gastric carcinoma, she says. For a moment the words do not land. Then they hit all at once. You are sure? Lori whispers. Very sure. Harris says. You have a peptic ulcer and severe gastritis, most likely from prolonged stress, poor diet, and overuse of painkillers. Uncomfortable, but treatable. Lori lets out a sound that is half laugh, half sob. I am not dying, she says, turning to Aiden like she needs a witness. You are not dying. He confirms, eyes bright. Her legs shake with sudden relief. Then another feeling surges up, hotter and sharper. What about the first report? She demands. The one that said late-stage cancer and 3 months. Dr. Harris's mouth tightens. I cannot speak to another physician's intent, she says carefully. But the language in that report is inconsistent with your actual test results. At best, it is negligent. At worst, it is fraudulent. Fraudulent. The word lands like a match in a room full of dry paper. If someone paid him to exaggerate, Lori says slowly. Would that be a thing you have heard of before? It would be illegal. Harris says. And it would be something for a lawyer, not a doctor. I can, however, provide documentation that the initial diagnosis was incorrect. Aiden nods. We will need that, he says quietly. When they leave the building, the sky feels brighter, the air lighter. Lori laughs abruptly, then claps a hand over her mouth. I told my landlord I was dying, she says. I told my parents. I told the internet. I named my business Last Dream Sweets. What do I even do with that? Rebrand, Aiden says. First of many dreams sweets. Too long for a sign, maybe. It is not funny, she says, but she is still laughing. He catches her in a hug without asking. She folds into him, cheek pressed against his chest. I made a funeral playlist, she mumbles into his shirt. It had Taylor Swift on it. Of course it did, he says. Zoe meets them in the parking lot, bouncing on her toes. Well, she demands. Lori lifts both arms in the air. Ulcer, she shouts. I am just stressed and full of holes. Zoe screams so loud a nurse glares at her. I knew it, she says, hugging Lori so hard she wheezes. Okay, now can we ruin Barry's life? Lori blinks. That is your first thought. Duh, Zoe says. He bought you a fake terminal illness. That is villain origin story level stuff. Aiden leans against the car, calm but coiled. I have already spoken to an attorney. He says. She specializes in medical fraud and workplace harassment. If you are ready, we can meet her tomorrow. Everything is moving too fast. Lori presses her hands to her face. I just found out I am not dying. She says. Now I am supposed to sue my ex-boss and a hospital? You do not have to do anything. Aiden says gently. You get to choose. That is the point. Zoe folds her arms. I vote for suing. She says. You already blew up your career on live recording. Might as well finish the arc. Lori snorts. Of course you are turning my trauma into season structure. She says. The next few days blur into meetings with Ms. Alvarez, the lawyer. They lay out emails, recordings, the suspicious payment trail between Barry and Dr. Patel that Aiden's team digs up. Dr. Harris provides written confirmation of the misdiagnosis. This is not just negligence, Ms. Alvarez says, tapping a stack of papers. This is a pattern. He weaponized medicine to control you. Lori feels sick reading the timelines. Barry urging her to see his guy. Barry insisting she send all reports to HR. Barry pushing her to sign a mutual separation agreement, which she now thankfully ignored while busy quitting on her own terms. We can file quietly, the lawyer says. Or we can go public. With your following, with Mr. Gray's platform, we can put pressure on the hospital and on law enforcement. Zoe's eyes light up like Christmas. Lori Parker versus the patriarchy, live. She breathes. Lori chews her lip. I do not want to be the face of misdiagnosed millennials anonymous. She says. I just wanted to bake. You baked. Aiden says. And people listened. Whether you like it or not, you already are a face. You can use that to warn others. Or you can take the settlement money and never speak of it again. No wrong answer. Only your answer. She looks at the photo on Ms. Alvarez's laptop. A screenshot from Zoe's video. Lori standing behind her folding table, cardboard sign behind her. Last Dream Sweets. She looks terrified and stubborn. I am tired of being quiet. She says finally. If Barry did this to me, he can do it to someone else. If I shut up, I am helping him. Zoe punches the air. That is my girl. She says. Get your lawsuit, babe. Gray Capital offers an event space. Zoe sets up a live stream. Ms. Alvarez coaches Lori through her statement. On the day of the press conference, Lori stands behind a podium, palms damp. Reporters stare up at her. Behind the cameras, she knows thousands of people are watching on their phones, half of them with pastry crumbs on their shirts. Hi, she says into the mic. I am Lori Parker. Some of you know me as the girl who quit her job when she thought she had 3 months to live and started selling cake on a sidewalk. Light laughter ripples through the room. A doctor told me I had advanced stomach cancer. She continues. He told me I was going to die. I believed him. I made choices based on that. Then I found out it was not true. She pauses. Lets the murmurs spike. It was not a miracle. She says. It was fraud. She plays audio of Barry dismissing her pain. Emails where he pressures her toward one specific doctor. Evidence of money being funneled from his company to Patel's private account. Ms. Alvarez lays out the legal accusations. Aiden stands just off to the side, a solid silhouette. This is bigger than me. Lori says at the end. I am lucky. I got a second opinion because someone pushed me. There are people who will not. There are bosses who will see this and think, what a neat trick. I am here to say it is not a trick. It is a crime. Hashtag last dream not last trends within hours. People flood comment sections with their own misdiagnosis stories, their own horrible bosses. 3 days later, Zoe bangs on Lori's door at 6 in the morning, shrieking. They arrested him. She says, shoving her phone in Lori's face. Barry's mugshot stares back, hair wild, eyes stunned. Charges scroll in a caption, tax fraud, medical fraud, harassment. Lori sits on the edge of her bed and exhales so hard she feels hollow. He cannot touch you anymore, Aiden says over the phone when she calls. He cannot do this to anyone else. For the first time, the space inside her chest that had been filled with fear and anger starts to feel open, ready for something else. 6 months later, Lori flips the sign on the door from closed to open and grins. The new storefront in Brooklyn smells like sugar and coffee instead of burnt office air. The words over the door read Sweet Life Bakery in warm gold letters. Inside, the old cardboard sign that once leaned against a sidewalk table hangs in a frame. Last Dream Sweets. Underneath, a small plaque named during a misdiagnosis, kept as a reminder. Customers stream in with the morning light. Locals grab coffee and brownies on the way to work. Tourists whisper, That is her. And pretend not to stare. Zoe sits at the corner table, laptop open, analytics charts glowing on her screen. We hit 1 million followers last week. She announces. You are officially an influencer. How does it feel to wield this much power? Use it to make oat milk illegal. I wield whisks, not power. Lori says, boxing up tiramisu. And oat milk pays our rent, be nice. A woman approaches the counter, clutching a tote bag with a nurse badge clipped to it. Hi, she says shyly. Are you Lori? My sister is one of your followers. She asked me to tell you that because of your story, our hospital changed the rules around second opinions. We caught a misdiagnosis last month. She said to tell you thank you. Lori's throat tightens. Tell her I said she is the hero. She says. I just bake. When the rush dips, the bell over the door rings again. Lori does not need to look up to know who it is. You are late. She calls. Your blood sugar must be tragic. Traffic. Aiden says, walking in with a single white tulip in his hand. And a board member who thinks synergy is still a word people say. He has traded his full-time armor suit for rolled sleeves and open collar. He looks softer here, under her bakery lights. Did you at least give them cake before you told them no? She asks. I redirected them with a cupcake and a calendar invite. He says. I am evolving. He steps behind the counter like he belongs there and kisses her. Nobody in the bakery is surprised anymore. Half of them cheer quietly. Gag. Zoe says from her laptop, not looking up. You are going to spill heterosexuality into my coffee. Jealous. Lori says. They move through the day like a practiced dance. She ices cupcakes. He runs the register when it gets busy. Zoe films an Ulcer Girl update. For their channel, meta headlines still appear sometimes. Woman sues boss over fake cancer, turns trauma into tiramisu empire. Sometimes, the weight of being the cake girl from the lawsuit feels heavy. Then a teenager sends a message that says, I quit my toxic job because of you, and the wait feels worth it. In the late afternoon, with the bakery quiet and sunlight buttery through the windows, Aiden disappears into the back. Zoe gives Lori a look so obvious it might as well be a subtitle. Do not freak out. She whispers. But if he does what I think he is about to do, remember chin up, speak clearly, and let me film from the ficus. You are not filming anything. Lori hisses, heart already racing. Aiden returns, hands behind his back. Lori Parker. He says, voice suddenly formal. Can I steal you for a second? You already stole my folding table life. She says. What is left? He steps around the counter, stopping in front of her. For once, he looks nervous. 6 months ago. He begins. You stood in a conference room and told a room full of reporters to eat cake before letting corrupt men ruin their lives. You accidentally turned my investment firm into the accidental sponsor of pastry-based activism. Sorry. She offers. Never apologize for that. He says. Meeting you made me rethink a lot. Why I work. What I want my money to do. Whether I was actually living or just scheduling. He brings his hands forward. They are holding a small velvet box. Her breath catches. Aiden. She says. This is where I give a speech. He says. But you scramble my brain, so I am going to keep it simple. He opens the box. The ring inside is delicate, one small diamond catching the bakery lights. Lori. He says. Will you marry me? Will you keep baking with me? Will you yell at me when I schedule too many meetings and remind me to eat dessert first? Will you let me spend the rest of my very long, hopefully cancer-free life trying to deserve you? Tears blur her vision. A laugh bursts out at the same time. I was supposed to be dead by now. She says, half hysterical, half grateful. That is a weird way of saying yes. He says, smiling. Yes. She says. Obviously yes. Only a complete idiot would say no. Relief flashes across his face so bright it makes her chest ache. He slides the ring onto her finger. It fits perfectly. He kisses her, long and sure, and the bakery erupts into applause. Zoe, despite her threats, does not actually film, but she does climb onto a chair to cheer louder. From fake cancer to real fiancé. She declares. We love a narrative arc. That night, after closing, Lori stands alone for a minute in the dim bakery. The framed Last Dream Sweets sign glows faint in the streetlight. She touches the glass with her ring finger. Thank you. She whispers. Not to the misdiagnosis. Never to that. But to the scared girl who snapped in an office and finally walked out. To the version of herself who chose flour and sugar over fear. Her phone buzzes. A message from a stranger. Your story gave me the courage to quit my job and apply to culinary school. I start Monday. Thank you for showing me we deserve more. Lori smiles. You did that yourself, she types back. I just provided the cake. She turns off the lights, locks the door, and steps out into the New York night. Aiden waits on the sidewalk, hands in his pockets. Ready? He asks. For what? She says. For the rest of it. He says. The unscheduled part. She threads her fingers through his. For once. She says, laughing. I am absolutely ready for everything I did not plan.
Thanks for watching. Follow for more romance stories.